Shalom Yasharallah, first and foremost, all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem Yahushai, Bahashem Rachah HaKodash, double honors to the apostles and elders of the house of David. Salutations to you brothers throughout the four corners of the earth, teaching the truth in righteousness and sincerity. To you Israelite foreigners, come back home to the truth. To those that passed on serving the Lord, the dead in Yahushai shall arise first. To you sisters who believe, keep encouraging and supporting your brothers who are out here teaching this truth, and always commemorate the sister who washed Yahushai feet when you read the scriptures. Sorry, that's my morning coffee. What I want to talk about is, those of us that's from the hood, we know that people are in the hood not living like nowadays. We're not living as destitute as we was before. And what I mean by that, I see a lot of, especially on social media, I see a lot of people that live in horrible conditions, Section 8, welfare and all that, going on vacations. Now, I'm not saying that all those people are doing so because they're committing some type of fraud and making more money than they should. You always, once in a while you might have a come up, you might get your taxes, whatever. I'm not here to talk about how they can afford the trips. But what I find about people that live on public assistance is, at least nowadays, is that they live like they're richer than what they really are. But when you really look at it, it's all an illusion. Even a cruise, y'all know I went on 2 cruises technically this year, if you want to go according to the scriptural new year, but this dickhead. Oh man, I hate people driving. But anyway, you have, you pretty much paid to go on a cruise and get to pretend that you're rich. And that's really what it is. I remember both cruises packing some of my most ridiculously expensive clothes. Going to these islands, buying, I remember one brother, the brother Shamyar I went with, he paid for a lawn chair one time. I was like, man, I ain't paying for that shit. I'm sitting right on the sand. All this shit has a cost. And, hey, listen, I paid for a drink package that I didn't even take advantage of all the drinks that come with it. So, each his own. I always say that everybody has their own, set of rules they live by and things. And it's okay. As long as everything's within the scripture, that's fine. He ain't break no commandment by buying a lawn chair. I just didn't I'm not paying just to fucking sit down when I could sit down on the goddamn sand. But anyway, a lot of times we think that our people, when they do get to go on vacations, when you go to Tulum, Cancun, sometimes people go to Rio de Janeiro, whatever, you go on vacation, you think our people aren't catching hell. The real problem is they're catching so much hell in life that those vacations kind of start to make up for it until you got to come back home off of the vacation. They don't really make up for shit. I'll give you a perfect example. Both cruises, I was overseas and I was doing work. Because if I got a text message, because we're still in U.S. territory, I still got to respond. And both cruises, I wasn't back 24 hours and they job was already jobbing. I'll put it that way. So, even when you go on vacation, because you don't really, I never saw where you went on a vacation in the scriptures. I never saw anything. Brothers travel to do the works. And I'm gonna be honest with you. This last cruise we went to St. Thomas. I was gonna see if I could run into a brother named Amna Wa'ala that we used to do the work with back in the House of Israel days. He's missing in action like a motherfucker. I know that he said that he had a camp in St. Thomas, but I don't, you know what I'm saying? But, and I wasn't gonna try to do the work with him because I don't know, what he's been doing for the past 20 years or so. Is it 20? Nah, I've done the work more recent with him than that. But I'm saying like, well, I don't know. It's 2026. I don't know. But it's been quite a while since I've seen him. But just to catch up with a brother that used to be doing the work with me. But you go on vacation and you don't really, your enjoyment and everything you get out of that vacation dies out quick. I went to Puerto Rico with my ex. Well, she was my girl at the time. About 3 years ago. Never really much enjoyment with that because, she's a bitch. She's evil. But, even when you see Black and Latino people going on these vacations and pretending to be rich, I still suffer, There's still that racism that we're criminals, right? So there was this lady who worked in the medical field during the cruise that I was on with Shamyar. And, she was wilding out, talking about, because I guess they searched her room for marijuana. And I've heard many cases where people of color, they are, even people that work for these cruise companies that make minimal money, look down on Black and Latino people. That's just the truth of the matter. They still think we're criminals. And I can't even blame them. A lot of the times it'd be the way we're portrayed on TV. You got to think about people that hardly ever see Black people from America or Hispanic people from America. All they got to go on is you turn on TV, see Lil Wayne, see rap videos with niggas with guns killing somebody or shooting at somebody or some shit. Of course that, fucking DMX, all these legends, right? But these legends of hip hop have made other people think that we're criminals. So that's what they see when they see us. So the oppression doesn't stop when you're on vacation. You don't have the option to be the obnoxious tourist. That's why I always tell people, like, yo, even when you're on vacation, treat people correctly so that they see that there's people of color that's not what you think we are. You know what I mean? And I say people of color because this video is, I always tell y'all, these videos are not just for people that are in the faith. These videos are mostly to get people into the faith through understanding and through, speaking a common language, By people of color, I'm definitely not including Chinese, Japanese, or anything else. I'm an Israelite. But anyway, I digress. But yeah, we think that we're vacationing to escape oppression, and the bottom line is we not. We're probably just as oppressed. We just don't know it. Think about the food you eat when you go to these countries, right? You think you're eating better food because your mind tells you, yeah, this chicken is better. No, it might be less processed or whatever you're eating and whatever you're doing is probably a higher grade. But let's keep it real. It's the same shit. There's really nothing different. There's really nothing different. There's not an improvement. It's the same fucking rice and beans you eat in fucking Little Dominican Republic restaurant as when you're in Punta Cana or some shit. There's not really a better quality, I don't think is much better, at least. I'll tell you that. It's probably, if it was a live chicken, It was probably the runt of the litter. It probably wasn't like the, you know what I'm saying? It's likely not one of those cage-free situations. You know what I mean? Or it could be, I don't know. But the bottom line is, you know, when you go on vacation, you know, you're really helping the economy of the country that you're going to, right? You go to Santorini, Greece, you're helping them. Believe it or not, you're probably paying more for your liquor or your food than the locals are. But you don't know it because the American dollar is that much more valuable. When you go to Puerto Rico, everything's expensive because it's still America. You know, I've spoken to a good friend that's been to both Puerto Rico and DR. He says, yo, whatever it costs in Puerto Rico and DR, Puerto Rico, it costs a lot less than DR. So these big ass gallons of Hennessy, these big ass gallons of rum and shit are much cheaper in these countries, because in reality, Hennessy themselves, they don't pay but so much to make the fucking liquor and to package it and sell it. What happens is there's markups. By the time you get it in America, it's changed hands so many times. And because the American dollar is so valuable, the minute Hennessy gets on American soil, you buy it off of a reseller. Everybody got to get paid. The local economy is what drives up the prices of these things that come from overseas. So you go overseas and you get the same shit, but you think that you're somehow getting a better quality. Oh, Hennessy White. Hennessy White, ain't nothing special about Hennessy White. Ain't nothing special about Hennessy White. Let's be honest. It's not. As we say in my hood, it's mids. It's not nothing better about it. You're not getting a better, higher grade quality of Hennessy. Hennessy White is just a different type of Hennessy. You know, to me, liquor's liquor, though. I don't know. I'm not an expert, but definitely in the let's say totem pole, for lack of a better word, in the totem pole of different types of Hennessy White is almost as same quality as regular Henny. Not much different. So, with that said, you have to understand, like I said, even when you go on vacation, you know, yeah, the worries of this world, you know, you get to kind of do away with them for a little bit, and you really don't. At the end of the day, you go on vacation, right? You're in St. Thomas with a fucking drink in your hand, eating a banging local meal, right? Your people are still being oppressed back home. Your people are being oppressed on the same fucking island you on. You just in the nice part. Think of how bad Jamaica really is. And think about when you go to fucking, what's that shit where they give you that mud shit? Well, it's really women. That mud bath bullshit, that massage. Ocho Rios. You go wherever the fuck you want. You're not going in the hood and thinking that you're going to not see the oppression. The oppression is there in the same fucking country you're in. You go to fucking Punta Cana and you think you're in paradise. A couple blocks from your fucking resort is a fucking hood where niggas is killing each other. You go to Tulum and you're fucking no more than 5 miles away from where there's fucking people getting killed over drugs. And it's the same in the States almost. You go to Atlantic City and you go to the casino, not even a block away, you got niggas killing each other and selling drugs to each other and prostitution. Matter of fact, you got prostitution in the casino. That shit does not change. You know, so I say that to say, you know, when you see people on vacation, you know, they're still going through their own hells. There's still a hell. So for those of you that do go on vacation, like, well, I go on vacation too now, but don't forget, you're still oppressed. When you go on vacation, things aren't that much better where you're at. Like I said, you just pretend you're buying an illusion. If you go on a Carnival cruise, man, let me tell you, the rooms aren't that good. I mean, I've never been in a room that had a fucking I get the staterooms, inside cabins. You know, but all it is pretending to be rich. That's all it is. Vacationing is, hey, let me act like I'm rich for a week. That's all it is. It's nothing more. That's the point of the video. Don't forget that you are still oppressed. And all it is you just paid $2,000 or whatever your vacation, where depending on where you went, depending on how many people you're paying for, you're only pretending to be rich. You're not really doing anything. And that's if your vacation is that. You know, my daughter's going to Dominica in February. Matter of fact, my whole daughter's family, they're going to Dominica in February. That's a family trip. They're just going to see relatives. But in reality, the oppression does not necessarily stop. It looks and feels different, right? You got people that are pretending to be nice to you that hate your fucking guts because they're seeing you being fucking rich and they don't have nothing nowhere near that. And you give them a $5 tip, they think you have millions of dollars. I know they think I got millions of dollars. You know, I realized that over the years, I kind of look rich, right? With all the chains and shit. But I can't take it back now. What am I going to do? Sell my chains off and shit? Like, and get a fraction of what I paid for them? Fuck that. But, you know, when you really look at it, when you really look at vacationing, rather, all it is a facade, like I said. All it is, you know, it's like my friend, right? My close friend, I talked to her yesterday, matter of fact, TT. She had a hall where, you know, you rent a party hall, right? Man, do you realize how cheap all the fucking props are? When you go to a party hall, you rent one out, and they got them chairs for a woman to sit when it's a baby shower. Them shits are fucking cheap to buy. And they get reused. You know what I'm saying? It's not like you're getting a chair that's specifically for you. You know, most things in there are not custom made. Most things in there are pre-bought, and 100 people are going to sit their nasty, funky ass on later, and they're just going to bleach them down or clean them. You know, you're not getting something that's for you. That's what vacation is. Vacation is everything's reused. 100,000 people have ate from the same plate you're eating from now. The liquor is the same fucking liquor. You're just paying more for it. You know, vacation doesn't mean oppression is over, unfortunately. And especially since you got to go back to the fucking oppression. You know, shit. When I went to St. Thomas, I damn near wanted to stay and say, man, fuck life in America. You know, but anyway, that's all I got for now. You know, vacationing is cool, but remember, all you're doing is pretending to be, you know, what we're going to be in the kingdom. And again, it's pretending. It's not real. It's not real. You're getting served, like I said, by people. Half those people probably hate your guts. Oh, look at this fucking American. With all his money, he's only going to tip me $5. Because they think you're richer than what you are. Anyway, with that, shalom.